Hi, welcome. On this video, I want to take a few minutes to respond by way, again, of a narrative put out by Zach George. And here says trainers who say not every dog responds to positive methods are telling on themselves. And again, go visit Zach George's social media pages. He's a great example as to what I'm talking about in terms of a belief system, an ideology, and this issue about appearances. I talk about the jumping in point when it comes to dog owners who are experiencing a relationship problem with their dog. And this statement really says a lot, speaks volumes when it comes to that very thing, the jumping in point. Because here's the main issue. Again, I talk about the issue about dogs as social animals, talk about this issue about relationship, okay, and context when it comes to beyond just appearances, beyond just responses, context as it relates to how you're perceived in the relationship, your role, dogs as social animals. So again, when I talk about we see me bringing up the parenting example often on my video content, there's a reason for that because it aligns almost perfectly, even in terms of the jumping in point based on the current state of the relationship. So again, I talk about connecting dots in terms of even what behavioral issues represent. And again, I can go through the whole kind of laundry list of behavioral issues, the reason why you're going to seek out help in the first place, finding a dog trainer, going on social media. And again, those issues go right through, common issues such as, excessive barking, a dog not listening, even housebreaking issues, right up to a point of dealing with a aggressive dog. And again, when I talk about the parenting example, now understand this is the dot that doesn't connect. This is when you hear trainers talk about approaching training as a learning based exercise. Okay, and this plays into right here, this narrative by the way Zach George talks about, positive methods. Okay, because I really would encourage you to think about what I'm about to say here about the problems in the dog training world, based again on the jumping in point, how trainers approach a relationship problem, is that this issue about response, okay, versus relationship, or response versus connecting the dots in terms of what behavioral issues even represent, and then how that aligns with your role in the relationship. And so again, when you consider this, what I talk about, when you consider the parent example, once a child starts to, express behavioral problems, once a child starts to become very self-focused, very selfish, I mean, it changes everything. Okay, that's the point. That's kind of like the epiphany moment when you should be saying, okay, um, you know, what's going on here? But not just what's going on here, looking at, because again, developmentally, okay, the important understanding the importance of the parent's role in the relationship, looking at even your parent, considering your parenting style, and then again, we talk about, and this is the disconnect, another disconnect here. We talk about issues related to, punishment, force, corrections. Yeah, I talk about how you want to define what that really means, okay? Because we're going to talk about some of these, some of these connecting points here. It's no different than, again, you look at the social aspect of the relationship as a parent. Ask yourself the question: how's parental influence established? Okay, based again on how you're interacting with a child numerous times during the day, to again in terms of expectations, consequences, even using the word no. And again, this is where you hear in the dog training world, even like it's that slippery slope where well you can't, bring a dog under any sort of uh, you know uh, corrective control or influence, or even just control in general through a leash. And even that word no is being, seen as a bad thing. But we have to, again, this is where I encourage you to think about, okay, what is the jumping in point of these trainers? How do they define change? How do they define training itself? Well, I said the question, what's the first thing they do, okay, in the training environment? Treats in their hand. What's the first thing they're doing? Okay, they're motivating right here. Pause. This is where the whole positive thing comes in. And again, understand this is really context. Understand context here, because how certain words are used within the framework of this idea that trains and learning based exercise. This whole thing about at a response level, getting a dog to do a sit or do a down. Understand that that is their criteria at the beginning. That's their jumping in point. That's their whole level of focus as to what defines change to them. It's utterly ridiculous. Okay, understand that this is how this is how superficial this is. But this is where you have to apply some critical thinking here. But take this back over the parenting example. Consider the moment. And again, same thing here. Don't connect any dots because these trainers aren't doing it. Okay, the moment that you're dealing with a selfish child, all the behavioral issues are happening, and then ask yourself the question. It's like these trainers. If you were to do what these trainers are doing, okay, and just simply focus on, okay, I got a mess on my hands here. My child's out of control. Well, I'm just going to start to focus on just generating some responses because that's my criteria, right? That's my whole. It's like hardwired in, and that's going to be my whole basis for everything. Okay, is to generate some good response. So yes, you can pull out the Xbox game. Think about the treats, and you can get a selfish child to make their bed or pick up their toy. So yes, you can get some good responses and bring your entire focus at that point in the relationship when things are out of control, and then try to define change that way. Try to say, okay, I'm good to go. I don't have to look at the parenting style. I don't have to consider my role. I don't have to do any of that. Okay, I can just trust appearances that way. I can just focus in that way, in a very superficial way, at a response level, and that's it. So I keep talking about the two core ingredients, influence and control, as defining, okay, giving you information as to the current state of the relationship. That's why I talk about, well, ask the question with a selfish child, when do you see the real deal? Okay, when instead of say pick up your toys and here's $100, it's like pick up your toys because you're the parent. So parental influence, right? You're aligning yourself through an expectation, a demand by way socially of your role. Okay, just pick up your toys because it's a reasonable demand. It's not. See, trainers like Zach George want to define that type of expectation as abuse, right? Because they're all caught up in this permissive, it's bribery, right? It's permissive, and it's totally superficial in the way that these trainers are engaging. They're trying to lead you to believe, falsely, that you can trust responses that way, that it's just a learning-based exercise. It's not. And so, just like, again, when I talk about, well, when you put a child under demand that way, you're going to see the real deal. For a selfish child, you're going to see the real deal. No, I'm not going to do it. Especially if your whole parenting style is based on that permissive parenting style. You've already signed the contract, right? You already say you do A, you get B. So this is really about how people think, okay? Now then, we just layer this up, because you have to layer this up, to how common it is for people to focus in on superficial response that way. So you get some great responses happening, but then you're like, hold on here a second, I got my certificate, but the relationship hasn't actually improved. Okay, just think about what I'm saying. The culture, guys like Zach George are out there trying to make you believe that, well, some things can't be fixed. Or when you see him, put out a video saying, well, watch this, I'm actually interacting with an aggressive dog here. He's got how's he connecting, how's he engaging that relationship, that problem through treats. Right? So, the control and influence are not part of the equation in a way that's going to both reveal and change. Those are gone. Okay, understand, those are not part of these trainers. That's not how they operate. And even the majority of balanced dog trainers, they fall within the same category. Okay, understand, this is why I talk a lot about balanced trainers and force free, but understand that this is all part and parcel of what you're seeing in the dog training world. And so, when I talk about and this is the challenge, is for people to think different, but think the right way, okay, that training is a intervention. Okay, now that doesn't mean abuse, because here's the part of the problem is that when you have trainers like Zach George or even a lot of balanced dog trainers, they're not able to actually reconcile the response of dogs to the relationship when those two core ingredients are now active. Okay, when they're part of the interaction, and you see a level of challenge, You see dogs like not liked, so immediately they think, oh, abuse, the dog's being hurt, because their whole framework is bribery. Okay, is to use treats, use something to motivate a response. And yes, the dog will be very happy to do it, but meanwhile still holding full control in the relationship. Just like, yeah, selfish child, you get them to make their bed for a brand new Xbox game, and you can get responses happening. Doesn't mean the relationship's getting any better. Okay, I mean, there's no different here. I mean, you have to start to, once you start to connect these important dots that these trainers, they don't want to talk about, they can't confront it, because they've already understand something here. The truth is they've already sold out to this. Okay, this is the, I talk about the big lie in the dog training world. This is it. Okay, this is the big lie here. And so I'm putting out information, and yes, it's very challenging, but understand it's only challenging because people have thrown truth out the window a long time ago. All these balance trainers, force-free trainers, they've set up this whole culture, and so they can't walk it back now. I mean, there's no way that they can confront. This is why you'll see you on their podcasts, you won't see them, even mention this, because it's something they can't deal with, because it puts them in a corner, puts them in a trade-off situation. They're not going to make it. Why would they? I mean, they're not incentivized to do the right thing here anyway. This is a ethical, moral issue here that's happening. This happened from the beginning with all these trainers. This is why you see all these controversy, the bonker I talk about all these controversies, bonker, all these things. It's like they're still up in the air. They're still like there's nothing resolved. There's no resolution. It's just controversy after controversy. Well, why do you think that is? Because to actually, confront what's really happening here, you have to confront the entire thing. Okay, you have to. The entire dog training world is corrupt. They're corrupt based on coming into agreement with this lie that trains a learning-based exercise. It's not. So my encouragement, okay, you watch Zach George here. I mean, you'll see him just in a very superficial way. That's what he's doing. You get these dogs to respond, but there's nothing that based on, okay, let's actually consider why, people are going to, dog owners are going to seek help in the first place. Or nothing is revealed even through the interactions how they're interacting with these dogs. The truth isn't revealed. This is why people are left, frustrated, in a very bad position in the end. But everything feels good at the beginning, right? Because you're using treats, you're motivating. But understand, it's a bad deal. Understand, this is the thing. These trainers are exploiting everything. Okay, this is part of the sell. Okay, this is what they're doing, and so they don't care. They're just going to keep pushing it because this is very popular for anybody has a high emotional connection with their dog. And don't get me wrong, dogs are great. They're in our lives for a reason, but you have to understand it's just like I used to talk about being a parent. Love is about, right? Not just about you, okay? It's about meeting the needs of another. This is a self-love ideology. This is not about, the type of love that supersedes yourself, that extends to another, to meet another's needs. This is not it. Okay, this is all appearance-based. It's all very self-focused. It's very narcissistic. So a lot of discussion on narcissism. Well, go through like the 14 characteristics of narcissism. You check those boxes by way of what this ideology represents. You're gonna check every box. Just understand that. And so it devalues dogs. It's based on a false image of nature. Okay, there's no depth here at all. And this is all about just the human and not in a good way. So again, check out my website. Lots of great information. I talk about not just the problem, but the solution by way of a intentional interaction-based method. Thanks for watching.